Welcome to the Mouthpiece. You want to be on the show? What do you like to say, Flash? Would you like to tell everyone I'm a 17-year-old cat that's witnessed Mike the Mouth get rich, get wealthy, get poor, get wealthy, get poor. Fuck Raz tournaments, man. Welcome to the Mouthpiece. This is episode 1 of our new podcast. Today we're going to talk about my life the last 8 years, everything I've been through, the ups, the downs, the pain, the suffering. We're also going to have a special guest today. Tournament director Matt Savage will be on to discuss everything from the Big Blind Ante to the state of poker today. And of course, we're going to take your phone calls and answer all the questions you want to hear on the Mouthpiece. Today we're going to talk about basically what's been going on in my life since Black Friday and the misunderstanding of why and how I ended up broke. All living in the past does is get you nowhere. You have to go forward. You can't play the victim. Playing the victim will always get you in trouble. You got to play the victor. And unfortunately for me, it's been hard not playing the victim over the last 7-8 years. But I've worked hard to get myself reasonably out of pain enough where I could start hopefully at least playing 20 hours a week. The days of me traveling the poker circuit is probably over, but I'm going to try and play as much as I can. So let's start off in 2010, October of 2010. Yeah, I like to bring this up because I want people to understand kind of what went on with Full Tilt. A lot of people are looking for the backstory or what exactly happened, what I know about it. I go back to 2010 and I go back to the day we were in Austria. It was me and all the owners of Full Tilt. By the way, I was not an owner of Full Tilt, so let's get that straight. But I was with all the owners and all the so-called good friends of mine that kept me at Full Tilt when originally PokerStars were begging me to join them in 04, right before we launched. And Howard Lederer and John Jawanda, Eric Seidel, David Gray, all the people who are involved with Full Tilt said, no, you're staying with us, and no matter what. And so as the person of me who's very, very loyal to my friends, I decided to stay with Full Tilt Poker. And as I look back on that, I will say mistake number 1 of all the mistakes I've made in my life. So going back to 2010, we were in this restaurant, underground, kind of a dungeon. It used to be used, I guess, as a underground place that imprisoned people back in the 14th century or in the year 1400, not 14th century. Maybe it is 14th century. Yeah, that's right. And, see, I'm so stupid. I don't even know. And I just remember this dinner. And I said, you know, and me and Daniel were always really close, really good friends, and we talked a lot. And even though Daniel was with Poker Stars and I was with Full Tilt, we all got along. So it was basically all of us pulling for each other and everything. But I brought up the fact that Daniel said to me, and I brought it up to Ray Bitar at the time and all the higher-ups that were at the table. And I said, well, Daniel says that you guys take players' pool money that were supposed to be in players' accounts and you've used it to advertise and build Full Tilt's brand into what it is. And at the time, Ray Bitar says, well, that is somewhat true and somewhat false, and that we definitely use players' money at first because, you know, we never thought we were going to be, like, out of business and, like, they were going to close us down. So when they first opened, you know, everybody started putting their money on Full Tilt. They definitely used the money of to advertise heavily to build Full Tilt into what it is today, or what it was today at the time. And but they said, but that money has already been replenished. It's already been put back in everybody's account, and Daniel doesn't know what he's talking about. I said, okay. Then I said, Daniel says that you guys are processing money by under fictitious names like selling flowers, selling garden equipment, selling whatever bullshit they used to process money. He told me the exact same thing. Daniel's a fucking liar, that he's full of shit, and that he's making it up. I said, okay. Well, as it turns out, here we are. We all have now found out that they were doing illegal processing the exact same way Daniel said they were. They took players' money the exact same way Daniel said they were. And it was kind of a lot of lying going on. Now, I just want people to understand that I had a special deal with Full Tilt. I had 5% of what's called a player's pool. I had the highest percentage of anybody in the player's pool. The player's pool was basically derived off of how much money the company was taking in, divided by what our operating costs were, divided by whatever it all was, and then I would get 5%, and different people would get 2% and 3%, and that was basically their pay for the month. Well, in 2011, a month before Black Friday, I went to a meeting at Howard's house with my agent and with a couple other people, and I basically said, I want my fucking money and the raise that I'm entitled to, because the company had gone up 400%. I was basically getting $50,000 a month, but should have been making $200,000 a month. And I have no problems spewing out those numbers. They sound a little crazy, but I was working extremely hard, and so was everybody at Full Tilt. We were traveling the world at a whim's notice. Whenever they said jump, I said how high, and that was my job. And I worked hard to promote the company. I was then told that the beginning of next month that I will be getting double what I'm getting now, and that the reason I have not gotten my raise up to $200,000 a month that I was supposed to be getting is because the company was having processing problems and that they had put $500 million away in case they lose the U.S. market. I'd never have to work again. And coming from friends that I've trusted and been good friends with my whole life for 14, 15 years in poker, there was no reason for me not to doubt that. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'll be getting double the first of the month. And it makes sense to me with the processing problems. Well, lo and behold, Black Friday hits in 2011. I had no idea what that meant when they shut down the sites. I was kind of oblivious to how bad it was. Howard was on those tours, was it USO tours, I think they're called, with the troops. I think he was there with Tom Dwan, a couple other people, and I talked to him on the phone. He's like, no, this is really bad for us. And I didn't know how bad it really was. The day after Black Friday hits, they asked me to go to London to film a high-stakes cash game tournaments. I filmed 3 of them, but during the filming of it, we had to have a pause and a wait. And I said, what's the problem? And they said, well, the check hasn't cleared. And I said, well, what's the check for? And they said, 1.1 million. And I said, well, how could the check not clear for 1.1 million? Because nobody understood, but the company was dropping in rake 2.5 million a day. So if they're dropping 2.5 million a day, how could they not have 1.1 million to pay for the filming of this episode? So after about 8 hours of bickering back and forth on the phone with the guys that were doing the filming and Ray Bitar, the criminal mastermind behind the thievery of all the money at Full Tilt, they then said they got a partial check and for half, and that they could start filming. So we go ahead, I filmed that, and my 3 segments were over, and I was heading home. It wasn't until I got home that about 2 weeks later, I find out they did not film the other 3 segments because the check bounced and they had no money. Now, this is when I knew the company was really in trouble. I was completely in shock. I had no idea that this could even be possible. I look back at that day, and I look back at 2010 in that restaurant, in that dungeon, and I look back at the whole year prior when a lot of you out there who played poker with me would hear me saying a lot of bad things about Full Tilt, and people would say, well, why are you saying so many bad things about Full Tilt? They pay you $50,000 a month. I'm like, well, because they're greedy, they lie, and the almighty dollar is all that meant anything to them. And I look back at it and I say, all they had to do is stop taking disbursements for 6 months. 6 months. They were taking $45 million in disbursements for 6 months, lining their pockets. And the company would be in business today, thriving in Europe, thriving in Brazil, thriving all over. And what would have been the truthful statement when I went and saw them of, we put $500 million away so we don't lose the U.S. market. Well, if they would have done that and not lied to me, we'd be in business today and my life would be completely different. So I just want everybody to know a little bit on the Full Tilt backstory. I also know this for a fact. When Howard Lederer came out and said, I am retired, it was all Ray Bitar, blah, 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 blah. That's a bunch of bullshit. Every time I went to Howard's house, and every time a deal was discussed, it was always Ray and Howard making the decisions on the phone. So for him to say he had nothing to do with it, he's retired, it's a bunch of bullshit. But there was also other people involved that also had a say, that never took the heat like Howard took. So was Howard responsible? 100%. Was Chris Ferguson responsible? I seem to lean on the fact that Chris Ferguson's only guilty thing that he did was let a bunch of fucking ass clowns run his company. He was the biggest shareholder at 20%. He created the software for Full Tilt, and he let basically a criminal like Ray Bitar run his business, and let a man like Howard also run it, and some other people. I mean, there was big shareholders that never took heat. I mean, Ivy was a big shareholder. Eric Seidel was a big shareholder. Jawander was a big shareholder. These are guys that made 30, 40 million in their pockets off Full Tilt. But they never got any heat because Howard was the name up front that basically, was a CEO, And even when he was considered retired, him and Ray made all the decisions. So they can say whatever they want. Those two were the key decision makers, including when there were other people on the board. There was like 7 on the board that had major ownerships that also made key decision making. So I don't think Howard should take all the heat. I think it was kind of unfair he did, but he did put himself to the front of the company, and everybody else was kind of a silent partner. So, that's kind of what happened. So I personally had $279,000 on Full Tilt. I was somebody that used to always blow all the money I made basically playing high stakes poker online. I never won online. I probably lost $4 million playing online poker. I don't know how much I got cheated out of. I know I got cheated out of at least $1 million on UB before we got all the big cash gains moved over to Full Tilt. I did get a $345,000 rebate from Ultimate Bet. That story is pretty funny in itself, that I lost 53 out of 54 sessions on Ultimate Bet playing 50 and 100 no limit and playing 300, 600 Omaha 8 or better. Russell Hamilton literally used to call me to play him 300, 600 Omaha 8 or better head up. This guy would beat me and beat me and beat me, and nobody ever beat me playing head up Omaha 8 or better. So I can't even imagine how much he stole from me there. It left a pretty sour taste in my mouth, but getting that 345 check, I thought I was going to get $1 million back, and I thought I deserved that much back, but I guess it was kind of like found money. That kind of is the start of everything that kind of went bad for me. Fast forward to 2012. Now, the whole year of 2011, I was kind of in a cocoon in my house, like realizing, oh my God, I'm going to have to now start playing poker full time for a living again. Now, I had basically put myself where I had quit playing online about 6 months before Black Friday because it was just unhealthy for me. I was losing and losing and losing, and I just never lost playing live poker, and I could never win playing online. And it's just, I'm the type of person that needs to be in front of people. I'm a people person. I like to have fun when I'm playing. I like to talk to people. I like to focus on people. I basically play real poker, like reading people, knowing if they have it, making big calls, making big folds. Online, it's just math-based calls and folds, and it just wasn't my cup of tea, and that's why I told Ray at the time that I no longer can play online, and that they're going to have to start, paying me, and I'll do other things for the company, but I can't play online anymore. And they agreed, and that's how I ended up saving almost $300,000 online, which, by the way, I never got back, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So we fast forward to 2012. It was basically right after I found out that PokerStars was buying Full Tilt, and I then went out and I borrowed $100,000 from somebody, and I told him he'd get it back as soon as I get my Full Tilt money back. Then we go into the end of 2012, and I find out that PokerStars, even though they bought Full Tilt, that the government or whoever was in charge, whatever, basically said, if you're a Red Pro, you're not getting your money back. Everybody else does, which they ended up stealing like $35 million from the Red Pro players, and that they never paid anybody. I then went into a panic mode because I had to pay back this guy this 100, and we can now kind of fast forward 2013. Now I just had a friend of mine named Kevin. He started staking me at the about the middle of 2012. I win about $500,000 for him in about 3 months playing down in San Diego at the Palomar. At the time, he started staking me. He says, "Don't worry, Mike, I got $1 million behind you. I'll always have your back. You have nothing to worry about." So I walked into a BMW dealership. I saw a new car in the lot. Bought a new car for $100,000. I figured, okay, the Full Tilt nightmare is over. Kevin's staking me. I'm crushing the games. And everything was back to normal for me, except for the Full Tilt fiasco behind me and the bullshit that they said before they sold to PokerStars. Some French guy wanted to buy the company, and then they start bringing up assets owed to them. Now, we can go into assets owed to them is people that owed the company money that didn't pay it back. Now, we could go back to that. I was given quite a big sum of money by Full Tilt to get all the big games moved over from Ultimate Bet to Full Tilt, in which I did rather successfully. I was playing like 320 hours a month. I got all the high limit games moved over. There was no more high limit games at Ultimate Bet, and everything was over at Full Tilt. They ended up giving me like $1 million, and I had no money at the time. They knew that I would eventually win it back. They were having me play like 2,000, 4,000 Omaha 8 or better, bunch of mixed games. And when you're playing 2,000, 4,000 online, $1 million just is not much. You could lose like 200-300 a day easily. And so when I got stuck $1 million, out of nowhere they said, "You're cut off and you owe us this money." And I'm like, "Owe us this money?" I'm like, "Why would I owe you this money?" I'm like, I don't have this kind of money. And they're like, "Well, we'll take $10,000 a month off of your check." At the time, I was like, "Really?" I'm like, what was I going to say? I needed the money. I needed the income. So I originally, at $10,000 a month, basically for about 32 months, paid off like $320,000. So I talked to a lot of people, and even Daniel told me, "Hey, There's no way you should have to pay that money. What you've done for them, you've gotten all the high limit games over at Full Tilt. I mean, they gave you that money to play. They cut you off without even telling you. I mean, there's just no way I'm going to sit there and say, give me $1 million to play these big games, move everybody over, and then just expect you to like cut me off and then say I owe you the money. There's no way I would ever have played big games and borrowed that kind of money. I was in no chance or understanding that this money was money that I had to pay them back. Now, granted, this company's dropping $2 million a day. They're putting them. All these shareholders are putting $1 million a month in their pocket, and so the grand scheme of things, when they were going to sell to this French company, they basically said, well, Jawanda owes $2 million and Lindgren owes $2 million and this guy owes $3 million and Mike Matusow owes $680,000 and I got death threats. People were calling death threats saying, if I don't pay back this money, they're going to kill me. And I got so many death threats on Twitter, you can't even imagine. So, but this was a false statement. And I even had Howard Lederer admit it in front of Elia Lesra, in front of a bunch of people when he decided to show up in the poker room and start playing 400, 800 in Bobby's room. And I just said straight out, like, I want you to tell everybody, do I owe that money, Howard? He says, technically, unless you're working for the company, no. And I'm like, thank you. Okay, because I knew I didn't owe this money. But they sure made it out to be like I was a bad guy and I was like this guy that was causing their merger with some French company to be delayed, and they just threw everybody under the bus. So many people that owed $50,000, and they're like saying, "Oh, well, we don't have this money because Mike Matusow owes this much money, and Jawanda owes this much money, and this guy owes this much money." But that was all, if you think about it, just a bunch of bullshit. Because if you're dropping $2.5 million a day, what in the fuck are you saying? Like, these minuscule amounts of money. Now, in the real world, it's a lot of money, but minuscule amounts of money are causing them from selling the company. Whatever it is, to this day, after they sold eventually to Poker Stars, and we're going back to where I borrowed 100 from somebody, and I find out that they're not going to be paying anybody who's a Red Pro back. Everybody else was getting paid back, and I call this guy and I said, "Hey, we got to grab some lunch tomorrow." He said, "Okay, no problem." And about 20 minutes later, he calls me back on the phone and says, "Did you know that they're not paying these Red Pros back?" I said, "That's why I want to have lunch with you tomorrow. I just found this out." So we forward back 2013, NBC Head Up. I won that for $650,000. It would have been $750. Kind of Helmuth begged me to save $100, even though I had a dream. I won the tournament before it even started. I said, "This is like a free $100 I'm giving you, Phil, but you're my friend, so we'll save $100, whatever." I win it for $650. I then go ahead and get like $320 for myself. I pay pretty much everybody that's kept me alive for 2 years back. I grab and pay the $100 I owed the person I borrowed from, and I kept myself $50,000. So I had $50,000. I had just made $1.1 million in about 4 months, and I took in the 4 months $10,000 a month for bills, and I took $50,000 for winning the NBC Head Up, and basically paid everybody I owed. And I then, fast forward to World Series 2013. I won the Stud 8 or Better tournament for $286,000. I then, at that time, out of the 140 I got, kept 20 for myself and walked around the poker room handing out flags and $25,000 chips to people I owe. So even though Full Tilt was gone, my name had been dragged through the mud by them, which to this day I really have a lot of resentment for it. I don't hold grudges. I'm not the type of person who holds grudges against Howard or Ray or Seidel or Jawanda or David Gray or anybody who, they're just my, I say hello to them. I always am respectful. But, the lie of we put $500 million away so you don't have to work again was such a deceitful lie that I look back at how I was protecting them the first couple of months after Black Friday. And I actually even took their side against Phil Ivey, which I look back as one of the biggest mistakes I ever made because I didn't listen to Phil Ivey's side of the story. They were like saying that Phil Ivey had someone who's going to buy the company and it was all a scam and Ivey was a scammer and Ivey was this and Ivey was that and one of my biggest mistakes I ever made was not listening to Phil's side of the story. Now, about a year later, me and Phil talked about it and we made amends. I apologize for not listening to his side of the story and just listening to what Howard and them had to say. And that basically covers the Full Tilt fiasco and how they destroyed the company from their greed. I don't blame Chris Ferguson, and I really want people out there to understand that Chris is a good guy. He basically told you guys run it, and if something big or any big decisions you need somebody to talk to, call me. But all he wanted to do is play poker, and I believe Chris Ferguson is a good guy. I told him this last year at the World Series. He says, Mike, you got it spot on. And he said it with a straight face to me. When I said, I know the only thing you're guilty of is letting a bunch of idiots run your company. And he looked me right in the eye and said, you're spot on, Mike. And I appreciate what you say good things about me. So I have nothing bad to say about Chris Ferguson. And anyways, I'm going to end this on that note right now because I've been talking to you for a while. And we'll be right back on the Mouthpiece.
Road Mouth.
Will the real Sims lady please stand up? What do you guys want to talk about? Let's talk about the fact that this idiot got aces fucking 3 times in 2.5 hours. I might not get aces 3 times in the next 2.5 years. No, it's true. It's tough to get. They're not easy to get. I mean, I got them cracked 2 days ago. So aggressive, John, right? So aggressive. Hello, dealer. What's your name? Say hello. All right.
Louder.
How do you pronounce your name? Thomas?
Thomas Low.
Thomas. All right. Well, I don't know. Your name says Kanang Lo. So, I mean, how the fuck am I going to know it's Thomas? And now it's my favorite part of the show where we take your phone calls and answer your questions. So, hello, welcome to the Mouthpiece. This is Mike the Mouth. Who's this?
Hey, Mike, what's going on? This is Joe from Pennsylvania.
Joe, what's going on, buddy? You're my first caller on my new show.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah, we're just getting it up and running, and, hopefully it's going to be a lot of fun content and a lot of good things to talk about. So, what do you got a question to ask me?
Hey, my question for you is, when do you think you'll get back into the scene of playing high stakes with all these new players and all the new information they've created and everything that's going on?
Well, the new information they've created, I think, is dog shit. I've been playing now back on the circuit the last 3 weeks. I played the LAPC. I finished 27th there, and it was disappointing 27th because I started day 4 with 57 bigs at 2-hour levels. Then I played the Win tournament and had a really good stack there and got it all in with aces against kings. And, of course, ran out 4 diamonds, and I lost that. And then I just got back from Bay 101 yesterday, in which I started day 2 with 65 bigs, which should have been 110 bigs because some idiot decided to squeeze with king 6 offsuit when I had 2 jacks. And lo and behold, it come queen 9-4, 2 hearts, deuce on the hearts on a turn. I had 2 jacks, jack of hearts, and he had hits an offsuit king on the end, and that kind of put a sour taste in my mouth going into day 3. And I made a mistake early in day 3, and I was really upset about it. Tried to overcome it, got myself back up to about 30 bigs, and then got it all in with jacks against ace king and lost a flip. So it's kind of what's been going on with me.
What about cash? You see yourself getting back into the cash?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of cash. I never really played high stakes, no limit, unless it was like high stakes poker. What people don't really know about me is I'm like one of the best mixed game players in the world, and I play mixed games. I've been doing, I've been doing real well as far as tournaments in the mixed games. I've really been kind of sick with this injury I've had for the last 4 years, and it's been basically the biggest problem I've had. They put a spinal cord stimulator in my body about 6 weeks ago, and it's alleviated about 70% of my pain, which has allowed me to go out and start playing again. So I'm looking for a really big World Series this year, and hopefully never turn back.
All right, well, thanks for having me on, and appreciate being the first one.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
Good luck.
You got it. Bye.
All right.
Welcome to the Mouthpiece. This is Mikey. What's going on?
What's up, Mike? This is Noah from the Bay Area.
Hey, Noah. Thanks for calling, man. How's it going?
No problem. Good. My question for you: do you think the shot clock should be implemented in the World Series of Poker?
I do not. As a matter of fact, I've been talking a lot with people. I hadn't played a no limit hold'em tournament in 2 years. Unfortunately, I was forced to miss the main event last year because I had a MRSA staph infection 3 days before the main event. While I was playing four-handed for a bracelet, so I was like in horrifying pain. So I missed it. So I hadn't played a no limit tournament in 2 years, and I got finished 27th in the LAPC 2 weeks ago, and I did get the time buttons, and I was talking with people yesterday at the Bay 101 Shooting Stars, and I kind of think they got the time bank shot clock thing backwards, and a lot of people kind of agreed with me, because let's just say you get time banks before you get in the money. This way people aren't stalling and all that crap, and then once you get in the money, people are not stalling. You know what I mean? It's like they want to go fast, get as many hands out as they can. And I know a couple people that ran out of time banks late in the tournament. And I just think when you're playing for all the money and you have to make a decision, I don't think you should be forced to like use all your time banks and do it on a 2-minute intervals. I mean, it's a game of reading people, and a lot of the reads I had, not only in this tournament but in LA, I would look at somebody for a couple minutes, or at least 90 seconds, sometimes even up to 3 minutes, to look and get a read off them. And what they're doing with the shot clock is taking the ability to read out of great players' hands, and they're putting it into the mathematic poker players' hands, and I just don't think that's right, and I'm going to really argue for that once I launch my podcast.
Certainly, if you have somebody like Christian Vogel saying that has those hoodies that are all the way up, I mean, what's the point? Like staring down somebody like that, it really wouldn't.
Right, but I'm also against all that shit too. I'm going to be very vocal about. I don't think anyone should wear sunglasses, headsets, or hoodies, and I think it should be pure poker. They want to take the poker out of the game and make it more of a math-based, GTO-based poker. And now that I've been playing a few tournaments lately, I just don't feel that's the way to go. I think if you have the shot clock, everybody has a time bank before the money. I mean, how often are you going to be at a real decision early in a tournament? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And you want to get it moving along. And I talked to like 3 people 2 days ago, and they all agreed with me that you're on to something, Mike. And so I'm going to kind of bring it forward on the podcast and see what people think about it. I mean, what's your opinion on the time banks?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like them. I don't know. I think like, but I've never played for like real big money, so I guess I can't really.
Do you think like what I'm saying right now makes a little bit of sense than how they have it?
I mean, I suppose. I think I probably more agree with you. Now I think about it. I mean, I guess I never really thought about like getting to the final table and actually giving people enough time. But I guess it just like when you watch like,
and
just super high roller, it's just so annoying to just watch people stare at each other for that long of time. But
well, you don't listen. That's why you can always call a clock on somebody. I mean, it's not if somebody starts to like take 2 minutes a hand, it's going to be every minute clock. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let people take advantage of it. But I do know that James Carroll was deep in the LAPC, finished 7th, and he ran out of time banks like early on. And then the other guy that finished 2nd, he ran out of time banks also and was forced to make a quick call or a quick fold. And I mean, that's just not what poker should be about. So I'm going to definitely gauge some Twitter followers and put out what they think of my idea, which I happen to just randomly come up with a couple days ago, and then people were all agreeing with me. I'm like, wow, Mike, I think you're onto something. So
no, that makes sense. Definitely having it before the money would kind of speed it up a little bit.
Right, because once you're in the money, is people really stalling to move up a pay bank of like $1,000? I mean, come on. I mean, once you're in the money, I don't even know what. The only thing I know once you get the money, making the money is like what the top 5 spots play, because that's all I give a shit about. So,
yeah.
Well, I appreciate your call.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime, man. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
Welcome to the Mouthpiece. This is Mike. What's up?
Is this Mike the Matusow?
Yes.
What's up, dude? How are you, man?
I'm fucking great. How are you?
Man, I'm fucking great, too. I'm fucking pumped for your podcast, dude. I'm excited, man.
It's going to be fucking great. It's going to be a no-holds-bar, go fuck yourself if you don't like what I'm saying podcast.
Dude, I'm right there with you. People are too fucking sensitive these days.
Fucking no fucking snowflakes allowed. Oh, I'm eating a popsicle right now, so my fucking voice sounds fucked up. What's your name?
My name's Alex, man.
Alex, man. Where you from?
Yo, dude, I'm living in Denver here.
The marijuana capital of the world, Colorado, Denver.
That's what's up, my man. Yeah, I definitely partake. Do you partake yourself?
I've been kind of partaking to help maybe with my pain and shit, but it kind of doesn't really work. But it kind of just fucks me up even a little bit.
Mikey, you had some back issues, right?
Yeah, I still do. I'm going to discuss it like on my opening hour of the podcast tomorrow. Pretty much go over what's been going on with me and kind of where I'm going from there. Do you have any questions for me? Anything that really pops up?
I'm a huge fan of you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. They all think I can't play no more because I've been fucking injured for 4 years. But I smashed the World Series the last 2 years. And they all think like, oh, Mike played 32 events, cashed 17, and made 6 final tables. Oh, but he didn't win one, so he can't play. Meanwhile, these motherfuckers play every tournament every fucking day, and nobody's got the results I have the last 2 years, and that's being in chronic pain.
They hate us because they ain't us. That's the fact.
Exactly.
That's the fact.
They hate us because they ain't us. It's a good fucking word. I'll fucking play anybody, any game, anytime. Even all these new fucking kids that think they know what they're fucking doing.
Your strongest game is right now, Mikey?
Well, I'm the best 08 player in the world by far. Any form of Omaha 8, stud 8, split game plays. But I still think that my No Limit Hold'em tournament is as good, if not better, than anybody's. I played the L8 PC last week, then the Win tournament.
I watched you on Twitter. You got unlucky, right?
Yeah, I always get fucking lucky. I took in the Win tournament. I played a 250,000 chip pot with aces against kings. I had aces, of course, and I lost.
Yeah.
And then I made a mistake early in day 2 in the Bay 101, and I was really upset at myself for it because I had been playing so good. And then I kind of overcame it. I built my stack back up to 91K, and then I got it all in with jacks against ace king.
Mistake or like an overbet or like what happened? Like
it was just. I told myself it was 10 a.m. start. I said, any decision you have in the first hour, just fucking take the loss until you're sure about it. And I made this call with 2 10s for 2/3 of my stack, which was just a terrible call. I was up against jacks, but even if I had the best hand, it was just a bad call. So I really was upset all day for it.
Was it pre-flop all in?
Yeah, I opened the 6,500. Guy behind called. Spawn by moved in real fast. And it looked like a hand he didn't want to get called with, which it was. I mean, 2 jacks aren't a hand you want to get called by and play a flip with. And whatever. I think I called because I was thinking about the 65,000 chip pot I played the second to last hand of the night on day 1, where I flat called a raise with jacks, and the guy with the king 6 moved in. I think that was still in my mind. That's probably why I called. It was just terrible. Very.
Tens are a difficult hand right there. It's right on.
They're really not. It's like for a pro like me, it's a fucking just snap, fold, and find a better spot. It was really stupid of me, but hey, we all make mistakes.
But you're up against 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s.
But I don't care. I mean, I have 120,000 chips. We're at 1,000, 2,000. I mean, you can't take away your ability to open pots, and that's what I did with that call. So it was a mistake.
Yeah, dude. By the way, I read your whole book, man. Check Raising the Devil, the whole thing.
You like it?
I thought it was fucking epic.
Great, man, because Check Raising the Devil 2, The Devil Raised Back, is coming out soon.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about what happened to me since Check Raising the Devil was released in 08. And there's a lot more shit that's been done.
Was it released 10 years ago now?
Can you believe it? Yeah. 10 years.
I feel like 2012, 2013.
Yeah, I know. That's because I got sick in 2014, and the last 5 years of my life has been a blur. So. Yeah. But it's all good. I appreciate you calling, man.
Dude, honestly, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a busy man. I mean, how many poker players can you just, literally, you put your fucking number on the fucking internet, and I can call you and talk to you directly?
And you can call me anytime, man. We shoot the shit. We're going to talk about a lot of topics.
I got some Vegas stories for you, too. I fucking lived in Vegas for 5-6 years. I mean, you name it, I've been there. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling, bro.
Thank you, bro.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Later.
All right. Peace out.
The Mouthpiece.
This is Chainsaw Steve Dempsey, and you're listening to The Mouthpiece.
Welcome to The Mouthpiece, and our first guest on our first show, on our first podcast, is the one and only Matt Savage. Matt, are you there?
I am. How you doing, Mikey?
Oh, I'm doing great, and how are you?
I'm good. Just getting done with about 3 months of travel, and then home for a little bit during WPT Venetian. Then I'll go back on the road April 1st. But, I'm home.
Oh, that's great that you're home. So That means that some Golden Knight games to go to when you're home, correct?
Yes, I just watched them lose to Detroit last night.
That was a terrible showing by them yesterday. Getting a point was like a miracle as far as I was concerned. They were not interested in being there. But,
it wasn't very good, that's for sure.
Yeah, that happens with everything. So, they say you're up for Industry Person of the Year, GPI Awards. Is that true?
Yeah, it's the now the Global Poker Index Awards, which before was the American Poker Awards, and then they had the European Poker Awards. But now for the first year, they've combined them. So it is a little bit different, and they've had 4 American Poker Awards, and I've won 3 awards in that. So this is a little different, but I'm up for the same award that I've been up for in the past.
Well, they should put you up for an award of the only human being that knows how to fucking have a structure in a poker tournament, and nobody will listen to you. That in itself should win you Industry Person of the Year, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I do have a lot of people that I talk to a lot and do different things with, and they seem to like what I do, and so a lot of people do follow some of the structures that we do. So it is a growing process, but the thing is that I try to help everybody, so it doesn't matter who it is. I just try and help.
Yeah, I understand. I'm the same way. I try and help people, but they don't really like to help me. But it's all good. But speaking of like the GPI and Industry Person of the Year, like we've been going back. Oh God, we go back. How long you been in this? We go back since I first met you, 2002. Is that about right?
probably 2002 at the World Series, but I probably met you maybe before that at Day 101.
And I remember when we were trying when you were just a tournament director, not just industry person, which I like that new label, by the way. It sounds more
I am a tournament director. I keep telling people I'm a tournament director. Actually, didn't even get put up for the award for tournament director.
Yeah, that's just bullshit. We're going to talk about that too. So they said that they wanted you to be industry person. It might be a slap in the face if you were a tournament director, but I think you should be up for industry person, tournament director of the year. I think you should be up for a Hall of Fame with me this year. These are just my thoughts. What do you think of those thoughts?
That would be cool. It'd be cool to go in with you. Obviously, it's an honor to be nominated 4 straight years for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but, me too. I feel the same way.
It would be nice to get in. And,
we have to fight off
for my family and my wife who puts up with me all the time.
Right.
Sure.
And speaking of the Hall of Fame, I want to talk to you about that because we talked about a couple weeks ago about it, and you had told me that it was important to you that you wished you were going to get in before your father passed away, and I felt everything heartfelt what you were saying there because my dad is 88. He's now been in the hospital for the last 3 months, and hopefully me and you get in this year, and hopefully he will be alive to see me get in the Hall of Fame, unlike, unfortunately, what happened with your father, and my condolences to you on that. And so I understand totally where you're coming from there, and that's kind of like why I wanted to get in the last couple of years because, we do everything for our parents, whether people believe it or not. I mean, we really do. I mean, I do. You do the same thing, right?
Yeah, I feel the same way. And for me, it's my family because my wife and my son and my daughter, have been there supporting me when I go out on the road. And they, it's hard. It's not easy to do that. In the same kind of way as like a player when they're out on tour and stuff. It makes it tough for the family not to be there with them. And my father and mother supported me for my entire life. When I first got into playing poker and being in the industry, I felt like it's tough for parents. Hey, your kids are into gambling or whatever. But when I moved over to the industry side of it, my parents did nothing but support me, and they were there at the final tables, at the early days of the World Series for me, and they were always supportive of me and my father, who had pulmonary fibrosis last year. I knew he wasn't going to be around much longer, and unfortunately, I didn't get in last year, but he passed away in September, so it was a tough one for me.
Right, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen to me, and hopefully, even though I know 1,000% you're going to be in the Hall of Fame, I know 1,000% I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame, it does something that what you had told me it is exactly kind of why I was kind of pushing it, hopefully, to get in last year. And so I do understand where you're coming from, and let's hope that this is a year for us. Moving on, I want to ask you, I always felt you're the most fair tournament director out there. You never took shit from me or anybody else when it came to rulings. You're always fair. I can't even tell you how many times I would argue with you and you would tell me, shut the fuck up, Mike, in a nicer way. It was basically, Mike, stop it, Mike. This is how it's going to be. So I have, but that's respect, a lot of times I would just be like, man, Matt's my friend. Why is he doing that to me? Why is he siding against me? But, I understood that, when it was all said and done, your rulings are always fair, and many of people I can't say that about. There's a lot of politics in poker, as you know, and I'm not talking about regular politics. I'm talking about poker politics, and a lot of people get treated a little bit better than other people, and when you're in charge, I don't feel that it goes that way. And I have tremendous respect.
I'd say that I feel like I treat everybody the same. It doesn't matter, if you're Phil Hellmuth or if you're, Phil Smith. It doesn't matter to me. I try and treat everybody with respect, and I feel like if you treat everybody the same, you're gonna protect the game and you're gonna protect players, and so that so that nobody gets an unfair ruling. And again, bringing more people into the game is what I'm always trying to do, and so by treating people fairly, I think that helps achieve that.
Absolutely. Sure. And by bringing more people into the game, that's something that I'm all for. And me and you seem to have an agreement that we're going to touch on re-entry events, because I'm been one of the big proponents against re-entry events, and so have you. I feel like how are we going to bring more Joe Blow everyday people into poker when they're winning satellites in the $5,000 buy-in events, $3,500 buy-in events, $10,000 buy-in events, and they're knocking out Helmuth twice, or Ivy 5 times, or Bonomo 10 times, or Daniel 5 times. So what's your opinion on this re-entries?
Well, first of all, I feel like I started re-entry, so I got to take some of the not only credit but a lot of the blame for that, because when I started them back at Commerce in 2010, the reason I started is because I felt like it was a way to bring players back into the casino every day. And the way it originally started was there was a buy-in for $335 in which we could put up $1 million guarantee. And so to make that guarantee, you had re-entry. And so what I did was if you busted out one day, you could buy in the next day. So it wasn't the same heat or same day re-entry, and it's kind of morphed into what it is today. So you can see how that would be a little bit better. You bring the player in the next day, you have this big guarantee, and you don't have people, blowing their brains out in one tournament in one day. Because, as far as I'm concerned, we have these big series and these big events where we're trying to get people to come in throughout the entire time. So tournaments were, designed to bring people into the poker room and play cash games. And,
correct.
When re-entry took over, people don't realize that it really killed the chance for people to go and play cash, because they were
destroyed the cash games. Before. Absolutely.
Yeah, and single table satellites as well. Like, people would bust out of the tournaments and they go over and jump into single table satellite to try and win a buy-in for the next day.
Correct.
Or they would go down to the cash game and play cash the rest of the night. But now with re-entry, people are just going in and they're buying into the tournament over and over again, and when they bust out, they just go home. So it's kind of a double negative for the casino as well, or the card rooms that run these tournaments, because that's what they were running them for. And, cash games have suffered greatly because of re-entry.
Greatly. The poker economy and the cash games is really in the sewer right now. And I've been saying it for a couple of years. I came out with a big thing on somebody's podcast. I forgot about the doom and gloom of poker, and then Daniel said, "Oh, Mike's doom and gloom is wrong, and he's crazy, and they're breaking records." And well, yeah, the tournaments are breaking records because a lot of people are re-entering, but the cash economy, we used to always say, you got to play your cash games to afford to buy into tournaments, and now with the cash games really being dried up, it's kind of really tough to buy into these tournaments. And they used to have 16 tournaments a year on the World Poker Tour. Now there's 160 of them a day somewhere around the United States. So it's kind of like you said, a catch-22. What do you think of? I've been kind of coming up with ideas to solve this re-entry problem and possibly help get the cash games back to kind of where they were. With the re-entries, as the dealers, the floor staff, everybody has to work twice as hard, twice as long, so many hours. And back in the days, it used to be, like you said, get people in to play cash games and then play tournaments. What if they took let's just say a $1,000 buy-in tournament that they rake $150. Let's just say they took $75 in rake and took the other $75 and put it in a cash game voucher, in which you then buy into a cash game and you put your card in, and once you've played an hour or 2 hours, whatever, on your card, you get $75. It's the same thing. The only difference is you don't have your dealers killing themselves. The same money's going down the hole, and it gets money into the cash game economy. Do you like that idea or no?
No, I don't hate it. It's something that I haven't heard. We're always trying to think of ways to get people to go down and play cash,
right.
Because, again, I do think cash is a big part of it. I have players that I know for years that never even stepped foot in a tournament venue. They just play cash only, and they prefer it. It's a way that they make their money. We've had, I was just up at Bay 101, and you had a bunch of people that, were displaced by the tournament, but when they came back, they didn't play the tournament. They were just there to play the cash game. So I think that your idea, has some merit, and I think that something we should explore to try and make it better for people that want to play cash. I mean, I know that you as well stepped in that cash game. And the game,
yeah, and I dusted off 7,000. I played so bad. So, but see, that used to be the thing: is people would get knocked out of tournaments, jump into a cash game. They're mentally fucked up from getting knocked out of the tournament. They get in a cash game. They're not all there, and then they just play bad and give their money away. I can't tell you how many times that we were playing like big mix games, whether it's 2-400, 4-800, or whatever. They get knocked out of the tournament. They jump in with 20,000, dust it off. We'd laugh and they go to the next thing. And that's what used to feed the poker economy, the ecosystem of the poker world. And now it's really not happening. So,
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's something that is a problem, and unfortunately, you've got to try and make it equitable for all. And even as far as even casinos go, you will see that people are re-entering and they're not playing casino games and stuff like that as much because of that. So
right.
I think as being from the other side, not even looking at it from the player side, but looking at it as from the casino property side. Limiting re-entry, maybe having single re-entry and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have no problem with single re-entry, especially when you come all the way across the country, and you pick up aces against kings, you're out in 2 minutes. You want to be able to have one optional re-entry. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, I still think that the way that we've done it at other events, you have the post-lim events or the pre-lim events, so you can jump into another event maybe instead of having so many re-entries. But it makes it tough. I think that there's definitely some value in having reentry events too. I think you need to have a good mix of everything: a single reentry, a multi reentry, and then no reentry events. So I think there's a little room for all of it. But you have a bunch of players out there that say that having these multi reentry events are just the same as having a regular one entry event, and it's just not true.
It's not true. I mean, the thing about tournament poker, and I want I'll ask you your opinion on this. And I've gone around now that I've played 3 tournaments in a row, and I hadn't played a no limit tournament in 2 years. I wanted to record, get an idea what people are thinking, and I just always felt that tournament poker. Well, we used to call them donkaments, as you know. If you're a tournament player, we'll make it 8-hander for you in a cash game. It just used to be how it was, So, but with the ecosystem of poker right now, and everybody kind of forced to play tournament poker because it's kind of where the big money is. Everybody's chasing that dream. That's kind of a false dream to most people, and I just think there's got to be a way to curve this and get people back in the cash games and get people back, where they're still making the money, the house. You want the house to make the money because they have to pay their bills and stuff. But you also want to break it up where the dealers are not killing themselves. I don't even know how long your dealers, how many downs in a row they were doing over at Bay 101. Can you answer that or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was okay. I mean, we had 30 tables and we had 35 dealers, so they were pretty locked in, but they were still,
locked in.
Yeah, it's a one time a year type of thing, so it's not like it's something that they'd have to deal with every day. So, I'm not as concerned about that aspect of it because I think that the dealers actually get geared up and look forward to it when an event like the Shooting Star comes in, because they know that it's their one time a year where they're going to have to really lock in and work all those hours. There's no EOs that day and stuff like that. So it's I'm always out for advocacy of the dealers, and hopefully people are treating them well. But I think that as far as that goes, I think it's okay. I just want to make sure that they're.
When I was a dealer back in the day, I mean, I used to, you'd work an hour straight and your back would be killing you. And I asked some of these dealers during the World Series of poker, I'm like, how many downs straight are you working? And they're like, oh, I'm on my 3rd hour straight. And I'm just like, and you're not in pain? Because my back, this is before I even had any back problems. So I'd be like, man, it's people don't understand how hard it is to deal. I mean, you've dealt before, right, Matt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. So I dealt for 3 years.
It's not easy.
And I loved it. I got carpal tunnel. If I wouldn't have got carpal tunnel, I might still be dealing today because I actually really liked dealing. I thought it was a great way to make a living. I loved dealing to players and being able to run a game. I thought that was a lot of fun for me.
Oh, I love dealing. I would. I used to talk to 3 different people at the same time while running the game. And at the end of the hand, when it would go bet, call, and I'd push the cards forward before their hands were up because I knew what they had. And I learned a lot as a player from being a dealer. I mean, if you deal and you follow the action, you really could become a really good player. I mean, I think it helped hone my poker skills a lot when I was a dealer. So, I understand that. But I really have this thing you're talking about protecting dealers. Let's talk about the big blind ante. I am a very big proponent of it. It stops the dealers where they have to reach out, pull all those antes in, which is so hard on their back. Tell everybody every minute, ante up, and what's your opinion on this? I love it.
Yeah, I mean, when it first came, when I first learned about it, I thought, this is probably something that's not going to be, catch on or whatever. And so I tried it in a small buy-in event. And, in the beginning, everybody freaked out and said, what are you doing? This is not good. And then the people that played and made it deeper in the tournament and the final table said, hey, I really love it. And so I tried it again at a few more events. And then, the dealers were on board. The players seemed to be on board. The staff was in love with it. And so I started doing it in every single no limit event. And I do it in every event. And, I reached out to all my friends, the TDs around the country and said, look, this is the way we should do it and try to make it a standard procedure. And now it's kind of grown, and it's growing around the world. Party Poker had done it where they used it on the button. The Aria and Paul Campbell had started where they were using it in the big blind. And, I think that it was a big part of my job, as somebody that is an industry leader for tournaments and stuff, to popularize it. And so I think I've sent it out around the world. I got in a lot of Twitter conversation and Facebook conversation about it, and really am pushing for it to be not only standardized, but for the procedures to be the same everywhere. And
right.
My procedures would be that it would be in the big blind, and that we would not reduce it at any point in the tournament.
Yeah, I did notice that you and Mike...
that the ante is first.
I did notice you and Mike Sexton got into it a little bit on Twitter. They were talking... Once it got down to 5-handed, they were using a small blind ante. What's your opinion on that? I kind of understood that, and I liked it also, but what's your reason that you want to keep it consistent, big blind ante? Can you explain that?
I think poker is about action, and so having a little more in the pot makes there more action in the game, and I believe that if you have that action in the pot, people are going to the attrition rate will be going quicker, and so the blinds stay higher, and the structure becomes better. You will see that if you do these tournaments with the big blind ante, the final table big blind average is always higher than it used to be in every event that I've run. It's higher because people are busting out. Now, people will say, well, it's not fair to the short stacks, but if you or me as a tournament director, you as a player, say, I want to protect the short stacks, I think we're kind of going against what we're trying to do with poker tournaments.
I agree with you. You got to bust short stacks to get the tournament over with. I mean,
correct. Well, you're not out there to protect short stacks. Who wants to protect short stacks?
No, you're out there to protect.
The only person who wants to protect a short stack is a short stack.
Right.
So,
and that's why me and you all know that Alan Kessler's crazy, and as much as we love him, we know he's crazy. So if it was up to Alan Kessler, we'd be playing the $1,100 buy-in tournament, and we'd be in day 6 and lost 20 people, and then he'd be happy. So no, I agree with you there.
Yeah, right. At my Bay 101 final table, it just happened. The guy got short with the big blind coming. He asked me if it was ante first, and he correctly went all in under the gun without looking at his cards, because he knows that when he's in the big blind, his ante will go first, and therefore he knows that it's more valuable for him to get his money in. So again, he was a short stack, and he wanted to try and get the most value for his chips that he had in front of him.
Right.
And so that was the correct play. He did it correctly. He won the pot, and then he went on to double up and make the final table. Right. And that's the way that you should try and learn how we're using the big blind ante and how it works and how it can be used to your advantage. Some people don't realize it, but I'll break it to you today. So if you are playing a big blind ante tournament that uses ante first, it's actually proper strategy to leave yourself with one chip. Because if you leave yourself with one chip, not only do you win X the amount of players that have a chip, chips in front of them, but you also win the ante amount, even though you only have one chip. Where in the past, when it was individual ante, you would only win the ante from each player. Mm-hmm. Now you can win the ante in addition to the amount of players that are in the pot. So let's say it was 6 and 12,000, and you only had 1,000. And there was 4 people in the pot, you'd win 4,000 plus the 12,000 in the middle. So you could turn 1,000 into 16,000, where you could never do that before.
Correct.
So it's actually advantageous for big blind ante for short stacks if you know what you're doing. And correct. I think that, again, it's a different dynamic for the game, and I think it's something that people are learning and doing correctly now, and some people have figured that out. And so I think it's a different dynamic to the game, and I think poker needs a different dynamic. So I'm happy to promote it and say that there's a way for short stacks for them to have more value in it. Because also with big blind ante, if you're in a full ring 9-handed tournament, you don't have to ante for 9 hands, so you could be really short and make a decision based on that. So I just feel like ante first, not reducing, and using a big blind instead of button is the correct way, and that's the way I'm going to do it.
I agree with you.
The way I'm going to do it in my tournaments.
And I also think, there's times where you have, let's just say you're all in, let's just say you have 8,000 in chips. Now you big blind ante 2,000 plus the big blind, and then the small blind's 1,000 is 5,000. You don't have to go broke in those two hands, because if you fold there, like you just said, and leave yourself 2,000, and now you get all in, you're going to get like you just said, like 16-1 on your money, and you get 8 more free hands. So people don't realize. I noticed that right away. Playing that, but I think one for the big blind ante to really work the way we're talking right now, I think it's very important that all card rooms somewhat come up with a structure like you have it. Like even with the World Series coming up now, I think that all the 1500s and under should have either 30 or 40 minute levels on day one, or 1 hour, or an hour and a half on day two. What's 40 times 2? Yeah, or hour and 20 minutes. I'm sorry, and I can't even add. And and then you go to day 3, and you make an extra half hour where the play is. And that's why I noticed at Bay 101, I just happened to be looking at the chip stacks. There was 5 people left. I guess somebody might have busted, so you ended up with a 5-handed final table. But the lowest person had 46 big blinds at 90-minute levels. Does anybody in the world understand 46 big blinds at 90-minute levels is a lot of chips?
Maybe it'll be better than you because you play well at the short stack, but the big stack had 175 big blinds. At that
right, I think it was more. Didn't the big back have more than that? I think she had like 200 and something.
Yeah, and it just got deeper and deeper, and people don't realize, man, you started this tournament with 40-minute levels. How does this happen?
Right.
And it's because of a few different factors. It's because of the big blind ante, because the levels got longer as the tournament goes on, and it's because there's a good structure. And, the thing that's happened in poker, which I hate, is that, everybody that says more and more and more chips makes the structure better, and it's just not true. I had great structures in the World Series even when I was running in 2002, 3, and 4, and it was dollar for dollar. And the way we did that was I started with 60-minute levels, went to 75 in the money, and then 90 at the final
Correct.
Table. And the structures were great.
They were great.
And people don't realize that it was,
What people don't understand, and I try and tell people this, like the new generation poker is, when you go chip for chip, right? You start off, let's just say a $1,500 buy-in. I remember we'd start off 10 and a quarter, then quarter, then quarter 50. Okay, and at 40-minute levels on the small buy-in tournaments. What people don't understand is like when they don't have as many chips in front of them, they panic, and if you're just wait and watch these people implode, when they have more chips in front of them, they feel like a comfort level. They could play more hands or whatever, but it's basically the exact same structure. It's the exact same thing. The only thing is there is nothing different. The only thing is people panic. I loved it as a professional poker player, watching people panic and just like they start with $1,000 chips and then they lose 300 on their first hand, and now 40 minutes later the blinds are 10 and a quarter, and they're like, oh my god, I only have 675 left, oh my god, and then they go into a panic mode and blow off their chips. That's still like 50 big blinds. And like back in the days, like you were talking, is we didn't want the tournaments going forever. We wanted to bust them, get them into the cash game, get them into the satellites to get ready for the next tournament. So
Yeah, I wrote an article back in 2009 about the deep stack phenomenon, giving more and more chips. Is it better for players? And, part of the thing that I have pushed, and, it's a problem for organizers like myself. If I have a tournament that's $120 and I'm giving 3,000 in chips, and the place next door says, oh, come over here, we're going to give you 20,000 in chips, they're going to go to the place that has 20,000. When we get phone calls on the phone from players, they say, how many chips do you start with? They don't ask any other question.
Yeah, nothing.
And to me, that's
structure.
the least important question. But the problem is that the recreational players want more chips. So again, we want to bring recreational players into the events and into poker, and that's the big problem for a guy like me, is that I have to cave to the demands of all that. And people that play the game and know the game know that the structures are better that I have, and know even though that we're giving less chips. But again, the guy next door is giving now 50,000 in chips for a $100 buy-in. It's just gotten out of hand.
It's ridiculous.
It's to a point of no return also, because there's no way to go back.
Right.
And you'll see at the World Series this year, they're giving 60,000 for the main event, where last year they gave less. They gave 50,000, and it was just fine, right? But it was fine when we gave 10,000 too. But it's just one of those things where organizers and properties have gotten to these chip wars of giving more and more and more chips, and the structures aren't any better. They're actually worse. But the problem is that everybody's buying into it, and now it's to the point of no return. It's sad because now I have to cave to that too. But there's ways around it also. People don't realize that you can do different things, like have shorter levels or have levels out, and then that's you're just tricking the players, which is sad.
It is.
We shouldn't have to do that.
And I was asking, I said, well, why is Alan Kessler not at the Bay 101? Oh, he didn't like the 40-minute levels for a 5,000 buy-in. Well, let me tell you something. It was for 9 levels. I played it, and with would you start 40,000 in chips? You start with? I mean, you're just
we started with 40,000 when we went 1-2.
You went 1-2 for 3 levels. So 3 of the levels were 100, 200. I mean, and so then by the time we got done with the 40-minute levels, we were at 500 and 1,000. Okay, so that's still 40 big blinds if you bought in at level 9. I mean, ridiculous.
No, actually, it was even deeper than that.
It was deeper,
500,000 was the end of the day, and we played 2 1-hour levels too. So
even
deeper than that. So,
we started, if I'm not mistaken, a day 2 at 1,000, 2,000. So we did go 1 hour level 612, 816 to end the day.
Yeah, 612, 816. You're correct.
Which is fine.
You're correct.
But it was the structure was amazing. I mean, maybe I got out in front 17,000 on the third hand that made it even better. But it's the point I'm trying to make is you don't need all these chips. But one thing that I really want to see put into poker now, except for the World Series of Poker, I think you could if you let people buy in up to 6 levels is fine, because of the fact there's so many tournaments going on. I have a really big problem with people buying in on day 2 of big events with 60% of the field out. I just do. As great a structure as the LAPC was, I was forced to play the whole day 1 from noon because I won a seat in the satellite. And people were able to come in on day 2, buy in at 90-minute levels instead of 1 hour limits with 40 big blinds. Now, 40 big blinds at 90 minutes is equivalent to like 80 big blinds at 1 hour. So I really believe in the future, if you're going to let people buy in on day 2, which I don't think should ever happen, that you keep the level the same an hour until those people, until you cannot buy in anymore. I don't feel that people should put in a whole day's work, and the people who have money that could just show up and buy in with 40 big blinds, 90-minute levels day 2, and not forced to play the whole day 1. Tournament poker has always been about equaling out the playing field. For the average person, business person or recreational player that comes in and plays, they want the playing field equal. So I back in the old days, I mean, we started a tournament at noon. If you didn't register by 12:30, you weren't in the tournament.
And that happened at the World Series when I started in 2002. I had started the tournament on time, and everybody said, "What the hell are you doing starting it on time?"
I remember it.
Never start on time. And I said,
that was the main event, right?
are going to start on time. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
The opening event, and Todd Brunson showed up an hour late after the tournament started, and he's like, "What do you mean I can't buy in?" I said, "You can't buy in. The tournament started on time." He said, "Well, why would you start the tournament on time? We never start the tournament on time." I'm like, "Because from now on, we're going to start them on time."
Well, that's the thing. And, if everybody is told, okay, the tournaments start at noon. If you're not signed up by 12:30, you're not in the tournament. Guess what? They're all going to still be there. I mean, there's nobody going to say, "Oh, fuck it, I'm not going to that tournament because it starts on time." Come on, man. They're all going to be there. And then it equals out the playing field. Everybody, and this is one thing, I do love about your structures. I love, like, Bay 101 was, I know you had to get people, you had to get it by 6:45, get all the cash game people in, which we started early. I didn't mind the early start, or by Bay 101, started noon, done at 8:30. I really think that for the big blind Andy to really work, it needs to be structured like the way you have it. I really think noon till 8:30, no dinner break, is the way to go in all tournaments, whether it's a $1,500 buy-in, a $5,000 buy-in, a $10,000 buy-in. If it's the World Series, it's in the $1,000 buy-in, noon till 8:30, no dinner break, 30-minute levels. Okay, day 1, hour levels, day 2, 90-minute levels, day 3. And they're going to see that when they get to day 3, the average stack at the final table is going to be between 50 to 100 big blinds where the money's at stake, not 500 big blinds on day 1 and everybody has 20 big blinds in front of them on day 3. That's just not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that, it really has made it great for poker players that want to enjoy, having dinner or relaxing or doing the things that, they want to do after the tournament and not killing themselves,
Right.
Playing, 14, 15-hour days becomes real tough on players. And I get that. I mean, not every event can do that. Not every event can be the same, unfortunately. But, at the World Series, they are running 2 events a day. So,
right.
You're not going to have that ability to do that, and sometimes 3 events a day. So it's not going to be possible in every event and every venue. So
you could.
The day.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
You could start off with like let's just say they're at the World Series. They run usually 2 events a day. Very seldom do they start 3 events a day. But now I think they're starting at 10 a.m. instead of like noon or 11 last year. And I don't ever play the morning tournament, so I don't really know. But and then the late tournaments that used to start at 5, they're starting at 3 o'clock now. I just think it's real standard. What do you have? We started at noon, done at 8:30. We played 6 levels. Is that correct? On day 1?
Day 1, we played 8 one-hour levels. And
8
the next day we played, the next day we played 5 90-minute levels. So we're at 8:30 on day 2.
Right.
And so, I think it's, again, if you're playing in a place like LA where you want to go out and have a nice dinner, relax, you can play some cash games. That's another reason why we do that in LA. Yeah.
Yeah. Me, with my back and everything, it's very tough for me to put in the long hours. And it gives these kids, the young kids, I remember I didn't start playing poker until I was like 25, but like when you're young and you're motivated, you can play for days. And it's just, you don't want poker to be an endurance contest. You want it to be an equal playing field. And that's why I really believe that like, hey, if the tournament starts at noon, you be there by 1. And if not, you just miss the tournament. They're all going to be there. Everybody plays the same amount of hours. You're going to have just as big a playing field because people say, well, if you let them sign up later, you'll get a bigger prize pool. No, you won't. They're going to all show up if you tell them they have to show up. I don't give a shit when anyone says they're going to show up. Okay, that's just what it is. So I just want to...
I think that ship might have sailed also because people now don't want to come in with no antes, which is fine. I get that. People don't want to come in. Or you're in LA and you have people who have jobs, and so people can't come in until after work. So those are the type of things that I kind of understand their side of it. But when you have an event that's a main event and you need people to sign up, I get it. I understand. You're not going to get all of those things, especially when you have no reentry event. Having people sign up earlier makes more sense. But for us, the people that have something to do on a Saturday. They can't play on the Saturday for the main event of the LAPC, and they have to come in on a Sunday. You know, that's kind of why we leave the registration open. So that's an option of people can do. And there's so many events around the world, around the country, that, you know, people are still in other events and doing different things. So they need an extra travel day to get there. And I get it. I understand what you're saying. I even might agree with you, but I still think it's something that if we don't do it, somebody else is doing it, and so people like it that way too. And it's unfortunate, but we've kind of got ourselves in a spot where we have to do what everybody else is doing. If we don't, we're going to lose players in our events, and they're going to gain them in theirs. So it's a tough spot. It's kind of like we go back to giving more and more chips. It makes it really tough for the organizers to make those changes.
But totally, now I understand that a little bit more, because like when we were playing tournaments throughout my career, it was always like, you know, tournament poker, stay alive long enough to give yourself a chance to get lucky. And basically, if everybody started the same time, everybody played the same hours, and if you made it through the day, even with 20 big blinds, hey, you made it. I mean, you can see you've seen how many times somebody with 5 big blinds or 10 big blinds have gone on to win tournaments, you know, 2 big blinds.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It was always stay alive long enough to give yourself a chance to get lucky. And now they're letting people buy in on day 2 with 60% of the field out with 40 big blinds. They don't have to stay alive long enough to give themselves a chance to get lucky. They just bought in with 60% of the field was out. And I just can't see that ever being right. It was the only thing I was really against at the LAPC when I saw we had like 546 people, and come in on day 2, there's 226 people left, so over 300 people are out, and these people are buying in with 40 big blinds. It gives a big edge to people who have $10,000 that don't give a shit. And if you want to bring people in and bring other people in, I just think it's something that we need to somewhat work on. Also,
right, well, I mean, a lot of that came from the fact that we're trying to be more standard on the World Poker Tour. And by standard, I mean we're going to use big blind ante. We use the same structure. Where we give players or properties some flexibility is with their, how long the levels are. We also give them flexibility on how long registration is. We always say that there's a maximum of 10 levels, and so you get these events that want to have reentry, and so they want reentry open long so they can put up a big guarantee. So, when you put up a big guarantee on an event, I understand why, you need to have those reentries, because, you need to make sure you make those guarantees. And you can have a huge prize pool with a smaller buy-in. So places like Seminole Hard Rock, they curtail their registration. They only keep it open until dinner. And I know that Bill Mason and Tony Burns out there, they want to keep it that way. So registration is open a little shorter out there. So the levels of registration that are open are a little bit different there too. So I do understand what you're saying, though, for sure.
I didn't know that either. Like at the Win, I played the Win last weekend, and we were on like the last level before the dinner, and like Helm used to, because I'd asked him if he wanted to take half of me or whatever, because this way I could, in case I go broke, I could re-enter or whatever a couple times. And he's like, he didn't answer me back. And then like 30 minutes before dinner, he's like, hey, are you still in the tournament? He goes, I'll take half of you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I only got starting stack, even though average was like 45,000. I had 30, but I had no idea at dinner break that you can't re-enter anymore, or else I never would have sold them half, because we were like 30 minutes away from dinner break and I was still in. So it kind of like, he got a good deal there, but I see what you're saying. See, I didn't know. I just figured I was so used to like playing these tournaments where they just let you like re-enter all day one. So I was just thinking, just in case I go broke, I can have an extra couple bullets and Phil can have half of me, and I'll make it easier on me.
The Mouthpiece.
If you'd like to take part in our phone call segment, you can give us a call at 702-329-0480. And if you're a snowflake or a pussy and you don't want to talk to me, you can email me at mouthpiecepodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow me at the Matusow on Twitter for times that our call-in segment will be live. Thanks for listening to Part 1, Episode 1 of The Mouthpiece. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow for part 2 of episode 1 here on The Mouthpiece.
The Mouthpiece.